Hey, Andrew.
Hey, Justin.
We're back for our season retrospecticle.
Ooh. It's official.
It's
We're
official.
back in person, too.
We are back in person. We haven't done this in 4 weeks.
No, I know.
Because the playoff schedule has been crazy, so we've just been recording from home.
The playoff schedule was designed to ruin the AudPod, and we came out on top. We're still here.
We're still here. We're still going.
We still did episodes.
We did all of them.
Before and after some of the games.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yes.
You all seem to like that, so that was cool. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for all the feedback. We appreciate it, all of it. But this is our final regularly scheduled episode.
Who'd have thought we'd make it here? Not me.
Not me either.
But we did.
So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk broadly about the season. It was a pretty fun season. You've heard us talk about the season a lot already. We're not going to get too crazy into it, but then we're going to give away our 3 player stars. We're going to give away our 3 highlight stars of the season. We're going to talk a bit about the team. We're not going to get too much into next season. We will at one point, and I'm going to get into that in a moment, but we're going to just talk about the season that was and enjoy what a magical season it was. And then we're going to talk about our little AudPod podcast milestones, because we hit a bunch of milestones that we would have never, we didn't put on our dream board.
We're going to do a season recap of the AudPod as well.
So we'll go through that. And then yesterday we posted on Instagram if you have any questions for us. And we got a good number of questions, so I think we're going to answer all of them or close to all of them. And some of those get into next season. So that's why I wanted to give that caveat earlier, is we will talk a little bit. But remember, we are 2 dumb guys in a room who don't know anything. We don't have insiders. We don't know what is happening with the team.
We might have one insider.
Oh.
I don't want to show my cards. So
Okay.
as far as I'm concerned, we are just dumb idiots in a room.
Yeah, so that's...
saying things about hockey, a sport we've never played.
Absolutely. Nor are neither of us built to play.
No.
That's not a sport
Well,
for
I
us.
do have a large lower body,
Uh-huh.
and I don't mean that in a pause kind of way. I mean, when I go and get dress pants made, the guys, did you play hockey? Why is your ass huge?
It was that time you were in Brazil.
Yeah, I thought I was getting hair treatment. I thought they were taking hair off my...
You did. Oh, wait.
Oh!
Yeah, so that's what this episode's going to be.
Welcome to the AudPod, where we're talking Kitchener Rangers hockey with the oddballs themselves, Andrew and Justin. Take it away, fellas.
Yes.
This was a magical season.
It was truly a magical season. One for the ages, one for the history books. Short of winning a title, it was one of the best seasons the Rangers have ever had. So it was just truly serendipitous that we started this podcast and got to go on this ride.
At the beginning of the season, we listened to the preseason rankings on the OHL podcast, and they were like, yeah, the Rangers might come in 8th in the West. So we were expecting to see a lot of moves and talk about players being traded away and getting draft picks, something for the future.
I put the over-under for their win total at literally 500. Yeah. And that seemed like I was being gracious doing that, because it seemed like this was probably going to be more losses than wins kind of situation. And boy, were we wrong, and boy, were we happy we were wrong.
These are things I want to be wrong about.
Definitely.
So it was great. We got to see some historic things. The Rangers got 100 points, which is only the 4th time in their history. Also, we saw the NCAA agreement come into effect, which has been a huge point of contention around the league, where players can go, what players can do. In the long term, and we'll probably talk about this a bit with the questions that we received from Instagram, but this is going to change the dynamics of the CHL as a whole.
For sure.
So we saw some benefits of it this year, but there's going to be a balancing with this new agreement.
Yeah, it's like everything. There's ups and downs with a rule change as drastic as this.
We got to see a European coach his 2nd season in the OHL, only the first European coach ever, and become the coach of the year.
Were we surprised? Absolutely not.
No.
Juice from the beginning on the AudPod. I will say, sorry, we need to toot our own horns.
Yeah.
We might be idiots in a room talking about a sport that we haven't played. However, we did say the Juice was a great coach.
Yep.
And we said that Jackson Parsons was a great goalie. And they both took home their respective awards.
Yes.
So
We were wrong about other things, but
we were wrong about a lot.
But you cannot take that away from us.
But we were right about two very specific things.
Yeah, absolutely. That was pretty awesome. And generally, we just saw like the charm of junior hockey this season. Like the fans are awesome.
Yeah, I'd say junior hockey fans are the best fans.
Yes.
Definitely.
They're passionate and they're not, politically correct term, jerks.
Yeah, I think that everyone has in perspective, except for one fan base,
Mm-hmm.
everyone but one fan base has in perspective that this is junior hockey.
Yeah.
And it's not the end-all, be-all. Now, we have a podcast about it. It's obviously very important to us.
Yeah.
But there's certain lines I won't cross with criticizing these teams and players and organizations.
Yeah.
There's just certain things I won't say.
Yeah. But we've heard them.
But we've heard them from one fan base. Once again,
But we're not going to. That is one thing I don't want to talk about
forget
today.
about them.
Okay. Dream season. You all get it. We talked about this. We've talked about this at length. In the last episode, we were blubbering on about how magical this season was, too. So,
That's true.
Andrew, who is your first star of the season? And before you even say it, who is our first star of the season?
There can only be one.
Yeah.
This was written in the stars. We called him the original AudPod guy. He's our guy today, tomorrow,
Forever.
and forever. 32 forever. Jackson Parsons.
Of course. His career as a Ranger was phenomenal.
It was a crazy story, right? Because he was here for his entire career, but he really only got to play a couple of years because of an injury, because of COVID, and obviously the first year he was just the backup. So it was a crazy career arc for him where he missed out on a lot of development. So his development happened at the end of his career, and it happened so fast, and he shot up to the best goalie in the CHL, bar none. That's not just my opinion. That's people who know what they're looking at in the CHL saying this guy is the best goalie in the whole Canadian Hockey League. So,
And he has some hardware to prove it.
Yeah.
I got nothing else to say. He's amazing.
Bottom line is, not to take away anything from this coaching staff, not to take anything away from the rest of the team that played their hearts out game in and game out.
Yeah.
How many one-goal games did the Rangers win? How many of those could have went the other way if you didn't have Jackson Parsons in net? And how much closer to that 500 record would they have been?
Yeah, it's true.
And realistically, a lot of the times in the OHL, especially in junior hockey, no matter how good a goalie is, they can't overcome players being out of position, teams not being as talented as other teams. It's easier, as crazy it is, I think, in the NHL to have an all-world goalie come in and steal games.
Yeah.
In the OHL, I think if you have just like a young team in front of you, they're playing guys who are bigger, stronger, faster, 2 years older, 3 years older. What are you going to do? What can you possibly do? We saw Jackson Parsons, as a 20-year-old, just come in and do it.
Yeah. Stopped everything.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I think that we've quoted it to death, but as Mike Farwell, Jason Hagholm, one of these amazing broadcasters that we listen to, I'm going to say that every time you think you saw Jackson Parsons' best save, he pulls out another one, and we saw that all season long. All right, Andrew, who is your second star of the season?
My second star of the season is a concept. It's not a player. It's a unit.
Okay.
It's the penalty kill. The penalty kill was the second star of the season. So every Ranger who took part in the penalty kill, they were second in the OHL in penalty killing. That was so important. And yes, Jackson Parsons is a big part of your penalty kill. But I will say the goalie can only do so much on the penalty kill because there is an extra man and you can't cover everyone, and that's the bottom line. I couldn't pick one particular player that stood out on the penalty kill because Brad Flynn's penalty kill really incorporates a lot of players all of the time, the same way that the special teams does on both sides of it.
Yeah.
But the penalty kill was elite, and I had to go with the penalty kill. So I want to shout out to the big 4 defense core, right? With Ando and Chromiak and Reed and Campbell being the 4 who logged the most minutes.
Yep.
And I just think that trying to decipher one of those guys as the second star was too difficult in a team that really got by committee at every end of the ice.
Right. Yeah, no, the penalty kill was phenomenal. We saw it also go into in the playoffs. We saw the penalty kill really won us a series.
Really did.
It was pretty awesome to see. And yeah, all season, Brad Flynn on point. We talked about Jackson Parsons. He played phenomenally, but also he gave the coaching staff opportunities to create other things because they didn't have to worry about protecting him too much. You don't have to worry about your goaltender. You can fan out. You can do different things.
When you have a guy who will play 55, 60 games.
Yeah, 80% of the games.
It's
yeah,
pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, my second star is, I'm going to guess that you expect this.
Yeah.
It's the Laminator.
Nice.
Tanner Lamb.
Tanner Lamb.
I loved watching this kid's passes all season long. He threw a couple snipes on, too. It's like he's got the shooting skill, but, man, his passing, his ability to move the puck around the ice is bar none. He's fast. He is small, but he's wily. He gets into the places. And we saw him throw a few hits.
We did.
And I was like, all right, good on you, bud.
Yeah. No,
Doing it all.
He plays bigger than he is.
Yeah. We saw some fun goals out. Like he gets into the right places. So it's not even that. So yes, he's great at distributing the puck. That is by far his top
best
skill.
asset for sure.
But we saw one off his rear into the net. He was just in the right place at the right time all season. Huge part of why this team was so successful this year.
A high IQ player.
High hockey IQ.
What he lacks in conventional size, which means you have to be a behemoth.
Yep.
He is just a regular sized person, actually probably above average for walking around.
A
normal person. He makes up for it with his vision, but also his wherewithal on the ice to be in the right place.
Yeah, for sure. All right, who's your third star? What is your third star?
No, this is a player.
Okay.
This was really hard because I had to encapsulate a whole concept, but I was like, I only want to do that for 1 star. For the third star, I had to decide between 2 or 3 players that were so important throughout the whole season. And I have to go with my boy, Luke Ellenis. All right? Luke Ellenis just got better and better throughout the season. He will fight. Yep. He will check. He can play wing. He can play center. The bottom line is this guy is not an overager. He's not even going into an overage season. And the dude just is like a consummate professional. And I also remember him doing interviews last season. And I remember him having a huge overtime series winner last season as well in the playoffs. The guy is just so clutch, but also so composed.
Right.
Like, he's just like a chill professional dude.
Yeah.
And there was something in the air during that Windsor series where Luke Ellenis literally willed this team to do the comeback.
Yeah.
It was funny because I remember seeing that picture of him with the sunglasses and the headphones, and he inspired me to do the LeBron James meme, not the other way around. It wasn't like I was like, I'm doing it and now they're also doing it and it's just a coincidence. I saw that guy come in like that, and I was like, I think Luke Ellenis has got ice in his veins.
He's here to play.
Yeah. I wanted to give a shout-out to Jack Pridham. I wanted to give a shout-out to Trent Swick, the overager. I wanted to give out a shout-out to the leading scorer on the team, Adrian Misiljevic, who I think maybe he helps us in that London series huge. Maybe if we have him in Windsor, that whole narrative is totally different.
Yeah.
You don't even need the reverse sweep, whatever. But yeah, Luke Ellenis, I think I was high on him coming into the season, and I'm higher on this kid now.
We again, in another moment of tooting our own horns, at Christmas, at our holiday extravaganza, when we were talking about the trade deadline coming up and stuff like that, we were talking about if the Rangers don't make any trades, and then, of course, we got the Humphrey signing, which wasn't a trade, but lives in that world. If we didn't have anything, if we had the team that we had at the Christmas break, what was needed to push this team further, and we said Luke Ellenis needs to take his game to one more gear, and we thought he had it, and he did. This second half of the season, Luke Ellenis, insane.
Truly. Come playoff time, the dude just becomes an animal.
Yes.
Like an animal. Not only that, missed 2 games. And it was a nightmare for the Rangers.
Yeah.
Was suspended for 2 games, and the ability to score was almost like neutered. And this has not been a team that has relied on one player.
No.
And so all of a sudden you're missing one guy, and it's like, uh-oh.
He's a game breaker?
Yeah, and like we said earlier in an earlier episode, all he does is score pretty goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he scores, it's not like a crazy amount, but he scores an important goals, and he scores beautiful goals.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 goals he scores. That's the 2 types.
Yeah.
The only 2 types he scores.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, my 3rd star is to our dear captain, the Andalorian. And truly, I want to highlight the captain part of that, because Ando has really proven to be a fantastic leader for this group. It started with the first game of the season. He dyed his hair blonde. We've talked about this. Young room. That we got a young team. We had a lot of nerves going into this season. He showed up. He dyed his hair blonde just to take the edge off for everybody. And I think that's only one very small portion of what he does. He's on the ice. He stands up for his guys. He's on the bench. He's encouraging everyone. He's always in every game. He never had a quit attitude. He never had we can't win this one. If the Rangers were down, and this happened quite a bit, we were down going into the 3rd period, Ando would always show up with that hard hit. He'd show up with a good shot, or he'd show up with a nice pass, or there was always an extra energy to him that he then distributed to the rest of his teammates and line mates. What a great leader.
Born leader.
Yeah.
Never takes a shift off. You can make individual criticisms about Ando's game. He can improve, but never takes a shift off.
No.
I never once saw Matthew Andonovski out there sandbagging it. I never, ever saw it. Even when they were down and they were going to lose a game, he's still out there playing with that same intensity.
Yeah.
And he also is just that guy to get in the face of the other team and say, we're not pushovers.
No.
And I think, like you said, he's clearly got a sense of humor. He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
And he cares about the squad. He cares about the organization. I think he cares about the community. There's that whole, it seemed like some of the things that like our dear friend of the pod, Sean Fafaro, was saying about him when Ando played his 200th game was just like how much he's grown and how important he is to this Rangers identity. And personally, I've always loved when your captain is a character guy.
Yeah.
I just love that because that takes away some of the responsibility of a top scorer or a hot prospect. I love that in the NHL too.
Yeah.
Like the team I grew up cheering for, Jason Smith was the captain of.
Right.
I loved that. Was he the best player on the team? No. But who was going to have your back in the scrum?
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's who Matthew Andonovski reminds me of. And that kind of never say die, like we're just going to keep coming at you. It doesn't matter if you're better than us. Yeah. It's hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And that was the mentality of the Rangers coming into this season. And I think a big part of that, Matthew Andonovski.
I 100% agree. Yep. That's the power of the Ando.
This is the way.
This is the way. Okay, Andrew. 3 highlights of the season. What's your first star highlight?
My first star highlight has to be the reverse sweep. I've never been a part of anything like that in my life. That was unbelievable from start to finish.
It was
but I'm so glad I lived through it
Yeah.
and witnessed greatness because realistically, just going back to what we were saying about this team identity, that down 3-0, they didn't give up. Even against the Knights in that last round. Like, they were down 3 goals in that third period, and they're still pressing. They're still trying desperately to score and come back. And there was a belief until the time ran out.
Yeah.
We can get another one. It'll happen for us. And so that comeback, even though it was only the second round of the playoffs, but for a team that was literally being earmarked to miss the playoffs or squeak in, I think that just overshadows everything else. And there was a lot of great things, but that was my favorite moment.
My top highlight 100% ties into this is that Jack Pridham penalty shot.
Yes.
in Game 4
Yes.
of the Windsor series,
Perfect.
and which really felt
Yes.
the turning point of that series. This was the TSN turning point.
It really was.
And that puck went in, the odd went insane.
Oh, it did.
You were there, and you could just feel it. You were like, this team's got it.
Oh,
He
yeah.
put that puck in the net, and everybody in the odd, anybody who was skeptical, was like, we're going to win this series.
For sure. I think there was a weird vibe about winning Game 4 the way that they did. There was this weird, I think they can do
got
this. I think they're better.
They lost by some big scores in those first 3 games, but it never really felt like they lost. It never felt like a blowout.
It felt like they were just literally stuck in the worst hockey that they've played since they lost the poop game, 12-2.
Just Windsor.
To Windsor. And so I was like, I don't believe it. I don't believe this. This isn't them.
This can't be real.
This isn't them, so we'll just... And sometimes that happens, and you can't make up the ground. But yeah, I mean, if we're picking a specific moment, for me, that first star was the Eleanor's goal that sealed the comeback.
Yeah.
So your first star was the Pridham penalty shot goal.
Your first star can be the sweep. I like it.
It has to be a specific moment.
Okay. Fine. You can have it. Whatever.
Okay. Good.
Okay, what's your second highlight of the
Okay,
season?
now I'm getting away from getting away immediately.
Get out of the recency bias.
I'm getting away. I'm going back to a concept, not a play. It's the winning streak for me.
Oh,
It is. The winning streak at the beginning of the season after coming out of the gates looking like a 3-legged dog. You know what I mean? It looked like a 3-legged dog in a dog race. It was not good. It was scary. For 2 idiots in a room who had just started a podcast, I was like, oh no.
The second episode that we did where we had to talk about games, it was that I was like, I don't know how we can do this for a whole season.
And we also basically had made a pact with each other that we weren't going to be negative, that we weren't going to be like, we weren't going to take this too seriously, and that we wanted to be a source of positivity for the Rangers, knowing that we were accessible, knowing what we knew about the reach that we had already at that point on social media, particularly with people involved in the organization. All I wanted was, I didn't want somebody's mom or dad to pull open Instagram and look at a clip of you and I going, these guys suck.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
bashing.
That's an awful feeling.
Yeah.
So it was like, we were like, oh, how are we going to spin this? And we were totally prepared to just spin, oh, they're growing.
Yeah.
And they grew very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, we have both been through like rebuilds in our NHL fandom.
Endless rebuilds.
So it was like, we knew we had the capacity to spin it. Thank God we didn't have to.
I know, exactly. I feel like we got spoiled because that 10-game winning streak, that was just literally turned the whole season around and set the tone of, oh, this is going to be an elite team in the OHL.
And it also got us our fun bit of picking a bone with the OHL power rankings.
That's true.
Was the start of that.
Yep.
My second star highlight is very specifically because I wanted to pull... when I was thinking about my third player star, it was between Ando and Cameron Reid.
Of course.
This is the pass from the ass.
Love it.
Cameron Reid against Owen Sound. It's taken out behind the net, manages to keep his wits about him, passes it out front. I actually do not remember who scores it, maybe Elena's, and he passes it right out front. Instant, beautiful goal. He was not on his feet at all. He was just sitting on the boards, passing the puck.
Pass from the ass. All time. It was Apple of the Year.
For sure.
We called it when we saw it. That's Apple of the Year so far. It was Apple of the Year.
He never got beat.
Period.
Yeah. All right. What's your second highlight star? Highlight star.
My third highlight.
Your third, because you did the second one.
Because I did the second one first.
I go second.
You go second.
So now it's your third.
The second.
So we did first.
You go second.
I
go first, third.
Thank you.
It's actually one of the things that started the winning streak. It's a specific moment. And it also is AudPod lore.
Oh, I wonder if we have the same one.
It is the brawl at the end of the Saginaw
It is.
game
It is.
that gave birth to the Andalorian.
It was.
And more specifically, the moment where he stuck his tongue out and he put his arm up in the air, and it's just that iconic photo. And I got my own iconic photo from where I was sitting, and I just remember that was like a great moment just personally. Like, I was out with my wife for the first time after like we had the baby, and like it was just a chance to go out and do something, just the two of us, and it was a super exciting game. And Saginaw is supposed to be like this powerhouse, and then it's 7-4. The Rangers dominated them, and then we get to see the Andalorian come alive.
So, yes, I did have the exact same third star. Him taking on 2 Saginaw players, and the ref just trying to get those poor Saginaw players away from him.
He was ready to go,
He was a dog with a bone.
He didn't have a problem. He was ready to go.
Yeah, that was awesome. And yes, definitely started some more. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. All right. Andrew.
Justin.
Now is time for our tribute section of the episode. I will remember you. Will you remember me? Adrian Miseljevic, Transwick, Jackson Parsons, Overagers. We did not rehearse that at all.
We didn't. We fell into it. We fell into it.
I don't know what we haven't said about these guys. They've been pretty important for us all season long. They're all OG Rangers.
Lifetime Rangers.
Yeah.
Just so cool to have been a part of it this year.
Yeah.
Knowing that these guys played every game they could for the Rangers.
It's amazing. And they were phenomenal players for us. I remember specifically the teddy bear toss where they were taking pictures, the 3 of them, because they knew this was the last one. It was special for us. It was special for them. And you could tell that this time meant a lot to them. And yeah, they were phenomenal players. And they join Hunter Brustevich on the memorial wall from now on. But we will remember them fondly wherever they go.
They are alive, though. You know that. They are going to remain with us. I will look forward to... They're all Golden Knights of a sort.
Are they? What?
Clarkson Golden Knights.
Oh, yes.
And Vegas Golden Knight.
Yes.
Transwick. All going on to be Golden Knights.
Yeah,
golden on the AudPod, golden as a knight.
Yes.
Yeah, what else can we say? I'm just going to miss them.
I'm going to miss them, too.
I appreciated the presence they had on the team. I liked the interviews they gave, the energy they had out on the ice, and obviously the skill level that they brought was exactly what the Rangers needed this year. Just going to miss them.
Me too. Yeah. And speaking of that, I think we just want to give a little bit of a shout out to the team, just as a whole. Yes, these Overagers are leaving.
Yeah.
But this magical season.
Most people aren't leaving.
Yeah.
We're in a very unique position to have seen a 100-point season.
Yeah,
and
we
a
get to
team
run it back.
get to the 3rd round.
Yeah.
And be able to like more or less run it back with a huge portion of the team. And a lot of the guys that were really key players are young.
They're young and can only get better,
Yep.
probably. Yeah, so, yeah, thank you to the team for putting this together. It was like a phenomenal... Loved it.
Huge season for the boys.
I wanted to say thank you to the team because now it's going to become all about us. Okay, AudPod Retrospective. Andrew, let me run you down a timeline of from when we started this thing to now, a couple just like milestones we've hit. Like I said at the beginning. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah, that was perfect.
Going back in time.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Conventions.
Yeah. So we started the Andrew had the name picked out for this AudPod 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
We got to start a podcast about the Kitchener Rangers called the AudPod. I was like, okay.
Yeah, but
and then
you were a little bit more excited than that. You're like, oh, that's a great name.
It is a great name. I think initially I went, what's the odd?
You're right. I think you did. But we kicked the can down the road.
Yeah, we mulled it around for a year. Had a couple beers. We got together. We were like, we were following the season before. Like, it was a good season. We were like, okay, like, maybe this is, because at one point they were, like, top in the league.
Yeah.
Okay, like, maybe we should. So we kicked it around. And then last summer we were just like, yeah,
let's just do it.
So we found the Kitchener Public Library because that was
Clutch.
That was a huge thing. It's like putting stuff together to do an AudPod. It's like a huge investment, or not an AudPod, a podcast in general,
but an AudPod.
Specifically an AudPod. There's an investment that I don't know if we were 100% willing to put in, and this just gave us the opportunity. And so huge thank you to the Kitchener Public Library for putting us up. I think we've done about 30 episodes here or 25 episodes here.
It's just so nice here too.
It is.
It was such a welcoming space. The staff was awesome, and I think we just were like surprised at how high quality everything was here.
Yeah.
So that we were just kind
We
of
sounded good instantly.
We can do this.
Yeah. Then we had to figure out how to edit and make clips. And
we
all
also
that sort of-
looked good instantly. Shout out to Papa Bourne.
Yeah, so my dad, then we had a ChatGPT logo that looks close to what our logo is, but my dad, being a retired graphic designer, took our ChatGPT rendering and some of our notes and made us like a legit logo. And then we were like, oh, we need this, and then instantly had it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dad. Thank you for all of that. And then we got going and we started posting on social media. We really are focused on Instagram as our thing. And Babs instantly liked our name. He
Yeah.
just said, nice name, liked our stuff, followed us. And we were like, okay.
He's like a hockey guy. He's a former professional coach.
Yeah.
And he's like a social media influencer, like content maker.
And when he followed us, we had nothing posted.
I think we had 40 followers.
Yeah, and we didn't have any videos or reels or anything. We just had our logo.
Yep.
So that was awesome. And then 4 episodes in, someone close to the team, not on the team, but close to the team, reached out to us and validated what we were doing. You guys are doing something cool. I'm going to leave it at that, but it was like, whoa, sweet.
Yeah. It was a moment. There was lots of moments where it was just like, oh, people are watching, people are listening.
Yeah.
Don't get us wrong. It's the fact that fans were interested in what we were doing is probably the greatest compliment, because
sure.
that's who's going to consume the podcast, and that's who's really invested year to year.
Yeah.
But like to have somebody like close to the team notice us, follow us, engage with us was like this could be an actual thing that continues.
Maybe we're filling
a niche.
We found that we were filling a niche that maybe we didn't realize was needed. Because we weren't like, oh, this is needed in this. We were just like, let's just do it.
As most good things start, we were like, we just want to do it.
We want to do it. We didn't even look up if there were other podcasts. We didn't. And then we came up with the Groat idea, which dominated most of our episodes for the season.
And we also learned about so many players.
Yeah, that was a thing that we talked about in our first episode, that we wanted to learn the history of this team.
Yeah.
And a great way to do that was researching the greatest Ranger players that have ever played on the team.
We only profiled 32.
Yeah.
But there was so many that we learned about. There's guys now that Justin and I know about just from seeing their names, seeing their stats, looking them up, considering them for the Groat tournament.
Seeing their names in the rafters and the odd.
But realistically, we had to limit it, and we wanted some people to put their input in, so that limited what we could do. However, we learned even more than what we let on in the 32 that we nominated.
Then we started doing some trivia with Babs, which helped us gain some followers, gain some credibility. Also gave us some great content ideas, because he's the master of content.
Yeah, it was just fun.
And it was also fun. And he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Then Steven from events at the Odd messaged us because he saw our videos on TikTok and asked us to shoot pucks on the ice at intermission.
That was a blast.
Which was super fun. We got that picture of us in helmets is on most of our stuff now.
That's just like the AudPod photo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we've talked about this already, but Andrew comes up with the nickname the Andalorian.
Yep. That was the Saginaw game.
That was the Saginaw game, which led to a slew of other nicknames and also inspired our first bit of fan art, which we greatly appreciated, even if it was questionably researched. Phil?
He was expressing himself.
As a hitch onto that, the Andalorian was used by the social media team on the Rangers as a shout out to us.
On an overtime Adanovsky game winner.
That made our week.
You were frantically texting each other. That was an awesome moment for us. We know who was behind that, but another shout out to the whole social media team. That made our little life that day.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then on the holiday break, we haphazardly gave Sean Fafaro an award that he then demanded a physical copy of.
Yeah, the old FAFO. If you don't know what that is, just Google it.
Yeah.
But, this was the find out portion, as Sean Fafaro said very eloquently when we met him and presented him with the Odd Potty. Yeah. Basically, we learned about writing checks that need to be cashed.
Yeah. We learned a lesson that day.
I will say my craftsmanship on that
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it was worth it. It was worth the wait.
It was.
Know, if you're listening, Sean, I think it was worth the wait.
Your paper clips look great in it. And then I went and had a baby, and we came back and we started video podcasting like dummies.
It's
so now you can see our faces. Then the OHL collabed with us on Instagram on a Jackson Parson post, because they knew we were so into Jackson Parsons. And that was another one where it made our week. We were like, what?
Big moment for us.
We finished the Groat series, and then we did the Groat vote, brought in 4,500 submissions over 3 weeks.
It was a lot of work by yourself, especially, putting together all of that, taking all the work that your dad had done, and I made a spreadsheet. So
yeah, well, it was a lot of work for all three of us.
It was.
But it was worth it and awesome and fun. And we also learned some stuff out of that, too. So.
Yeah, definitely. We did. We learned about community.
We did.
Yeah.
Community.
And the power of love.
The power of love. And then the playoffs started, and CTV contacted us to talk about the reverse sweep that was in the process of happening.
As if we were qualified.
No, we weren't. I'm so sorry to the CTV crew for pretending like we were.
Honestly, though, shout out to Jeff Pickle for reaching out to us, because that was just really cool.
Huge highlight for us.
Yeah.
And then in the final act of the season, the Rangers collabed with us about Jackson Parsons as well.
Yes,
so
that was.
We had a lot of collaborations.
The crowning achievement, I think,
was
an official collaboration on social media with the official Rangers.
Yeah, that was pretty freaking cool. Yeah, so that was our season, and it wasn't really a nutshell. It's a coconut shell.
Here on the AudPod, we've been known to talk about something for 7 minutes or so.
Okay, then we asked you some questions on Instagram yesterday. And so we got a few of these questions, so we're just going to answer them, maybe a little rapid fire.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll do that. I've separated these questions out into talking about this previous season, talking about next season and beyond.
Okay.
And then talking about the AudPod, because there was a few AudPod questions. So this previous season, we have a question from Curtis. Was this year a fluke or sign of things to come? Andrew.
Definitely wasn't a fluke. I think it's an interesting year because Jackson Parsons is moving on. So I'm not saying that there's going to be regression next year. I'm just saying that it's a different team next year. It's going to be a different makeup next year because one of your best players is no longer in net. That's not to take away from Schabel, who I think is going to be the answer of another question later on. However, I think that next year's team will be better at scoring, realistically.
Yep.
And I think that will take some of the pressure off having to win these 30 out of 31 shots, puck stopped games. I think there will be a bit more 4-3 and 5-4 and that kind of game. So I don't think it's a fluke, but I think it's definitely a sign of things to come because the Rangers, I think, ultimately are built for 2027.
Yep. I agree. Definitely not a fluke. I think there was some strategic luck that came into play this season.
Yeah.
I think the writing was on the wall with this NCAA agreement, and I think Mike McKenzie was thoughtfully prepared for it.
For sure.
And so there was some strategic drafting in past years that have happened that were pretty critical to this year's success. But even if that hadn't happened, there were some necessary step ups by players from the last couple seasons that we needed to see and we saw. So specifically like Elena's Lamb, even like I know he won't be with the team again next year, but Misiljevic also took another step forward.
Very true.
And so he was great last year, but he was like phenomenal this year. We saw a bunch of that sort of stuff, and we saw this coaching staff really pull into full form like what they were trying, their vision. Next question. This is from Chris. Would the Rangers have been as competitive without Parsons? Which does lead in pretty much to that last question.
Yeah. Realistically, I think they would have been just as competitive, if you want to say, were they going to be gamers? Were they going to be up for every game? I would argue that with league average goaltending, they would have been one of the top 5 teams in the West.
Yeah, I don't think they would have got to 100 points.
No.
But I think good goaltending gives you confidence, so you can build on that. But yeah, I would say it's pretty hard to say anything beyond the fact that we had the league MVP as our goalie.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's probably somewhat unlikely he wins league MVP just because for some reason organized leagues hate giving MVP.
Goaltender MVP.
But this is what I'm saying. I think they hate giving the MVP to a goalie.
Yeah.
Because the goaltenders have their own award. But yeah, honestly, he is absolutely the most valuable player of possibly the whole Canadian Hockey League this year because no one anywhere thought the Rangers would be this competitive, and he willed them to that.
Yeah.
Yes, I think the Rangers would still be a stronger team than expected, but no I don't think they would have been who they are.
I agree. All right. So now next season and beyond, Ben asks, which player will have a breakout season?
I'm going with Cameron Arquette. It was a breakout season personally for me this year, but I think it's because we were watching every game and paying attention to every detail so that we could talk about it and not sound as stupid as we sounded in the earlier episodes. So I just think that Cameron Arquette is showing all the signs of being an even better player than maybe he was projected to be. I did read something somewhere that he was a proficient scorer in Bantam. So that's where my money's going, that he's going to be the one who takes a huge step. Of course, he's still young because it's only his second year, but that's who I think.
That's who I picked as well, so I'm going to pick a different player, and this is going to lead into the next question. But I think Schabel's going to have a crazy season next season. I think it's probably not going to be like he's going to do 80% of the starts. It's probably going to be more like 60-40 with Edwards. But yeah, I think Schabel's going to show us that he's got the goods. And then Lauren asks, thoughts on who is going to be between the pipes next season? Sell for a goalie, Schabel?
Here's the thing is I don't know what the Rangers' outlook is on Owen Edwards, and that's I'm saying that in ignorance. No idea how they feel about Owen Edwards. I don't know if Owen Edwards is projected to be the guy, obviously, because he's in the organization, but they're putting together these development camps now. I just saw that they've got the spring camp going on, and there's a ton of goalies. There's 6 goalies, Schabel being one of them.
Yep. Week we'll learn a lot more about goalies, for sure.
But I do think Schabel did everything right last year to be the guy this year. Maybe they could go out and trade for somebody to split the crease with him.
Yeah.
But there's absolutely no way after the season he had last year as a true backup that they're not going to give him more leash.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with you. I think I could see them going out and buying a goalie in the offseason. I think that he should be given the 1A role to at least start and see how it goes. And maybe if you have to make that trade mid-season and he becomes the 1B, I think the only thing is he just needs more experience.
And he's young.
He's young.
For a goalie, it's harder for goalies. Look at Jackson Parsons.
It takes so much longer to develop.
19 and 20-year-old seasons, that was when he became the starter.
For sure. I could easily see a goalie, maybe an 18-year-old goalie getting picked up just for the sake of experience.
Yeah, you bring in, it could even come at the trade deadline or something if the Rangers are really playing well and they just want a seasoned guy to come in.
A little bit more stability.
As like a 1B who's maybe a 19-year-old is behind a guy that is the crease dominant goalie in whatever market they're in. But yeah, I think Schabel has to be projected as the guy.
Yeah, I agree. Chris asks, should Ando keep the C next year?
I mean, this is an interesting question because how much stock do you put in the C? If Ando relinquishes the C and they give it to someone like Cameron Reed, which I think I can understand in the sense of they just want to pass the C on, do we really think that Ando isn't the on-ice or like dressing room leader of this team? I don't think so. I think Ananovsky is the de facto captain, whether or not he has the C or not.
Yeah, I agree.
Should he even be on the team?
Yeah, that's my only caveat is like my answer to this question is yes, he should still have the C. If he's back, I could easily see Ottawa wanting him in Belleville next season. Like I could easily see him being on the AHL team next season.
As a 20-year-old, I think Ando would be like, there's benefits to him playing the type of player he is. He's a big guy, he's a strong guy.
Playing with the bigger players, the older players.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so I could see that either way. James, I think his name is James, or their name is James. Which 3 OAs will we keep next year, and why is one of them Jack Pridham, who will bail from BU?
This is an interesting question because You and I talked about this very briefly
Yeah.
in a text back and forth that we often have about the team, and talking about the Overagers. And realistically, I don't know how realistic it is that Jack Pridham is back.
Yeah.
Because this is what I will say, is he could have said, I'm bailing on Boston and come to Kitchener anytime after he was drafted here, and he didn't. And then once the NCAA agreement was put in place, he immediately came here.
Yeah.
But I think that ultimately, this is one of the things we're going to get into with the NCAA, is the NIL agreements, which is name, image, and likeness agreements, means he's going to make money.
Yep.
Playing for BU. Now, you make more money as you go on, the more games you play, and each year you're eligible to make more money because they're making money off your name, image, and likeness in the NCAA, and it's a much bigger market, and Boston University is one of the teams in the Frozen Four, the NCAA, that ether of a team that is a team to watch and has a following. So I don't think he comes back, but maybe he loves it here. Maybe he comes from a hockey family, so to not say anything of he doesn't need the money, not to go down the Zach Hyman's parents are rich route, but maybe he says it won't make dollars and cents for me to go to the NCAA. That's the only way I could see him being one of the Overagers.
The only other thing is that he's already been drafted, so the sort of the credit going towards like the OHL's better development. I'm like, he's shown that already. He's shown who he is. And so I agree. I don't think he'll be back. To answer the question, who will the 3 Overagers be? Here, I'll answer first. So I think there's a couple ifs in there, but I think Ando will be back. I'm going to assume that. Mercer and Chromiak, and then Grisgolia will come in if Ando's gone, I think. And I said to you, I don't want to, if I was cold-blooded GM, Mike McKenzie right here, like there's some value in some of these guys like Chromiak and Mercer. It's like you could potentially trade them for stuff that gets you better for 27.
Yeah, if you want to accumulate some picks so that you can buy big at the deadline or in the offseason going into 2027, obviously Jakub Chromiak is a crown jewel going into this year as an Overager, but he's also like a right shot defenseman minute muncher that if you want to develop Jason Schabel, that's a kind of guy you'd like to have in front.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, next question. This is from Steve. How does the NCAA ruling affect the Rangers' ability to put together a competitive 2027 Memorial Cup bid?
Yeah, we just talked about this, was the name, image, and likeness thing is going to be a hurdle because you're not going to be able to compete with that in the short term. Maybe the Canadian Hockey League changes rules. I think realistically, you're going to see older players jumping to the NCAA rather than younger players because that tends to be an older league.
Yep.
So it's just bigger, older guys. So I think they're in a really good place. I don't think it should affect them too much because a lot of their players, like, you already can project who the Overagers are going to be in 2027. You know that's on the table that they could make the jump, but I think if you're looking at somebody, the 2026-2027 season would be like the overage season for somebody like Luke Ellenis. I don't see him jumping ship.
No,
does he? Maybe, of course.
Yeah. Now it's just an avenue that is open to all of them now.
Yes, exactly. But however, it's also going to make the NCAA more competitive at that age. Yep. So you could actually just see that some guys are not going to go the NCAA route and they're going to choose the OHL at this point, or guys from the USHL choose the OHL and eventually jump to
this is what we mentioned earlier. There's a balance coming, and there's going to be some ins and some outs that happen. One thought I had is I think trading for some of these higher end 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-old players is going to become more expensive because I think they're going to be a little bit more of a premium because those guys who are like really good but maybe not super NHL bound, like not guaranteed NHL bound, or don't have that avenue open to them fully, might jump to the NCAA earlier to start making the steps towards the games they need to play. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a gap between the highest end talent and then that sort of mid-round talent, and I think buying some of those players is going to become more expensive.
Even we've already seen it, like Henry Muse jumped to the NCAA. He's leaving and he's going. So I think it's going to balance itself out. We just don't know how it's going to balance itself out in the short term.
Yeah. Okay, Curtis asks us, which undrafted Ranger is currently on the team going highest when he gets drafted? I bet the easy answer is Cameron Reed, but thinking beyond Cameron Reed, beyond this year's draft, who do you see going higher?
Honestly, I very early, and I don't want to put pressure on this kid, but Jacob Zoo early on.
Man, our brainwave is really going
He's a big, smooth skating defenseman who can't be hit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's one of these guys, he's 16 years old, he forced his way into the lineup.
Yeah.
You have to think that's a guy who could go real early.
Think about his game and the way he plays already, and I was looking at high drafted defensemen, and I was like the Noah Hannafin archetype.
Yes.
Who I think went 4th overall in his year.
Yeah, look at Aaron Ekblad. These guys went so high because it's like you see a raw athlete like that who can play defense whilst they're young in this league. Do I think that they're just going to immediately transition into the NHL and be superstars? No, it's really hard to play defense in the NHL.
Yeah.
But I could just see someone licking their chops at that kind of a specimen and being like, we got to get this guy.
Yeah, we got to get this guy. Yeah, for sure. Okay, this is a question specifically for you, Andrew, because I have done no research on this. Ryan asks, thoughts on Kane Barch, and do you think he's going to come after the U.S. development team?
I will say that I think the Kane Barch pick was a brilliant strategic move by Mike McKenzie once again, because there's no room for a first round pick to come in and immediately play hockey in Kitchener. And what teams do is they intentionally pick guys who may never report so that you can get that compensatory pick. And if you get a compensatory pick next year, that means you have 2 first-rounders next year back-to-back.
Yep.
I can't say for sure if he's going to come, but I can tell you that the Rangers feel like this is a win-win. If he never shows up and he just goes on to the USHL because he is a US-born player, I don't think they're going to lose too much sleep over it. However, this is what I've heard from our one Bantam junior hockey insider. He reached out to us and said it was a great pick. He is a very strong two-way player, does everything right, never takes a shift off. So if Kane Barch does end up here, I guarantee you he's going to be a dog.
He sounds like a real Ranger. All right, this is now into the AudPod section. This is from OG Oddball Community, the Oddballsians. I don't know what we're calling them. Gord.
AudPodians.
This is from Gord. Will you do a groat for Ranger fans and players next season? I think Gord is definitely making the semifinals if we did a
I was going to say, Gord just wants to be in the bracket and to just dominate somebody in the vote.
Yeah, so, there are official Ranger gifts of him waving the flag at games.
Exactly.
So, yeah, we'll just say yes, Gord makes it to the finals. Curtis again asks, if you could rebrand the Rangers, what is the name, logo, and theme song?
I thought of this.
Yeah.
And I didn't think of the theme song, but I'll do a deep pull here in a second. I would stick with the old school Tex logo. I would call them the Kitchener Highwaymen.
Okay.
And I would stick with that Western Sheriff vibe. Maybe I would do more of a soldier jersey, but with the Ranger logo.
Yeah.
We could do something like that. That would be cool. There's a song by, I think it's Harry Nilsson, and it's like the lineman.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I can't think of how it goes, but yes.
You know what I'm talking about.
Or you could do I Shot the Sheriff.
I kind of feel like we're the sheriff, though, so I don't want to
get... if we became the highwayman...
That's true. We would drop the badge, so you could do that. You could do that. That's a good one.
Okay, I was thinking about this, because the transcript always automatically switches Kitchener to the Kitcheners. And so I went with the Kitchener Cooks.
Okay. We're cooking.
We would change our mascot and logo to the Swedish Chef. Oh, what's the drummer from the Muppets? What's his
Animal.
name? Animal. We'd get Animal to play Peanut Butter Jelly Time as our theme song.
Okay.
Curtis, final question. Curtis asked, when will we see some Rangers joining you on the AudPod? And I just want to say, open invitation.
I'm asking the same thing now.
Any day.
Any of you boys listening,
Yeah.
open invitation.
Yeah.
Let us know.
So just thank you to our community. It's been an awesome season. We appreciate every single one of you. We can't believe all the people that like reach out, they slide into our DMs during games and are like, what was that ref thinking? Oh, that was a beautiful goal.
I love the reactionary DMs.
Yeah, live game.
Never stop.
Yeah, please keep going. We appreciate all of you, every single one of you. We've shouted out a few of you during this episode, but I don't want to start naming people because there's too many people to name, and you've all been fantastic.
And just, there's been a few of you who've reached out with like true feedback, and it's been constructive and it's been positive, and it just means a lot to us as two people who have spent a lot of time on this podcast. All we want is for people to listen, really, but we also just love that you guys are enjoying it.
We appreciate it, and thank you. Okay, Andrew, that's the end of our episode. That's the end of our season.
That's it. Season 1 of the AudPod. Wrapping up.
So we got to, of course, we thanked Ken Bourne already, but thank you again for all the branding, all the marketing, all the beautiful stuff, the hats, all the things.
Yep.
And the groating and the everything.
Groating.
We got to shout out our prodigal producer, Liam.
The Phenom.
He gave us some amazing feedback in the beginning, in the early days. And then
stuck with us.
And man, listening wherever his travels have taken him, he's always listened.
Give us a note.
Yeah, give us another one. We got to thank the Kitchener Public Library. We said we've been here for a majority of our recording.
Truly.
We sound great because of their equipment, and they've been very gracious and wonderful for us to be here.
They know us by face now.
By face, at the very minimum. Andrew, how can you find us on the socials?
You can find us at The Odd Podcast on TikTok and Instagram. You can also find us on YouTube at The Odd Podcast - Kitchener Rangers. Or you can just search in the search bar. The Odd Pod will come up.
Every time. And as always, if you can subscribe, follow, we appreciate that. Now that we won't have regular scheduled programming, if you follow us and put the notification bells on or whatever in your listening, that'd be great, because we'll have a few episodes probably throughout the summer, and then we'll be back at it before the season starts in the fall. So.
Yeah, we're going to leave you wanting for more a little bit. We're not going to have weekly drops, but there'll be a few.
There'll be a few, probably. And as always, you can find us at
the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium.
See you at the Odd.